So, I told those couple stories about teachers, and I thought of another one that I'd forgotten that I had been meaning to tell. This was first year of college, second semester, first year. I took a Civil War course, and the course was supposed to go from the 1850 through the end of Reconstruction. Supposed to focus on that, but it's supposed to go all the way through 1877, the end of Reconstruction. Now, it had gotten to about 3 weeks left in the semester, and we're still at Gettysburg. We have only gotten to Gettysburg because this guy, he loved talking about the Civil War. He loved the North, loved the South. He actually went one day and he drew on the board all the, forgive me if I don't know the right term, all of the designations for ranks within both the Confederate Army and the Union Army, starting with private all the way up to 4-star general. And so he loved talking about the Civil War. And he would just come in, he would open up a knee-high, you know what that is, a knee-high soda. He would open that up, a peach one, or he'd bring a Coca-Cola every once in a while. And he would just sit there and just talk. And he never really wrote any notes on the board. He would just talk. He would come in and start talking about the bravery of Ulysses Grant or the bravery of Robert E. Lee. He loved talking about it. He would just tell us stories about the Civil War, and half the time he would go off into a tangent that nobody knew what he was talking about. Had nothing to do with even the Civil War. At any rate, what I want to tell you about is at the end of the semester, because we had 2 exams so far. Now, when he gave his exams back, and I think the man honestly just picked random numbers to mark them, honestly, because there's no rhyme or reason. One time, my buddy and I had studied the night before. We studied the same thing. We wrote, because these were blue books. There's like, long answer questions, right? So there'd be a question that you have to write several paragraphs about in a blue book. And the guy sitting next to me, who we had studied together, who wrote almost exactly the same, I got a 96 and he got a 78. And we had given the same information essentially. So I don't know where this guy was getting his grades from, but the thing about it is he didn't even record the grades, because he comes in 3 weeks, like I said, 3 weeks before the end of the semester. He comes in one day and he says, I need you all to tell me what you made on both your tests. We're like, what? And so he's like, yeah, I'm going to sit up here and I'm going to call your name and you tell me what you made on the first exam and what you made on the second exam. Okay. So most of us had our exams still in our books there. And so he would call somebody's name. Oh, I made an 87 and I made a 94. I made a 78 and I made an 89 or whatever. So he goes down through the roll like this. And he gets to this one girl, and if you didn't know, you could have just made it up. And some people did, because I talked to them after class. Some people just named out numbers, and he was good with it. If you didn't have your test, just say, oh, I made a 95 and 89, or whatever. You could. I actually had my two exams. I still had the blue books, and so I put what I actually made. When he asked me, I said I made X and Y, and it was actually what I had made. But I guess this one girl, and this was really, really a weird moment. Like I told you, this guy would come and cross his legs and sit in the corner when he gave his lectures, and he would just talk. Now, he had given us a textbook that we had to buy. He didn't follow that textbook. I don't know of any time where he actually followed the succession of events as the textbook was covering them and brought out the ideas that the textbook was recommending. This guy was one of my favorite teachers, by the way. He was just interesting, but he was not organized. Not in the slightest was he organized. And so that's why he came in 3 weeks with 3 weeks before the semester's over and asked everyone, what did you make on the first exam? What did you make on the second exam? Anyway, I've mentioned that. So he gets to this one girl. We're almost done. He gets to this one girl at the end. And he says, Miss so-and-so, what did you make on the first exam? She says, I don't know. And he says, what? He said, I told you it's your responsibility to keep up with your test. And to be fair, he did do that. The first or second day of class, he said, it's your responsibility to keep up with all exams. I mean, to keep them in your possession after I give them back to you. He did say that. But this girl said, I don't know. What did you make on your second exam? I don't know. And then the professor says, well, it's your responsibility to keep up with that. And he kind of just pauses for a second. And when he pauses, it's like about 2 or 3 seconds of silence. And then the girl goes, no, sir. It is your job to keep up with what we make on our exams. It is not our responsibility. And his face just changed. His countenance on his face just changed. You could tell he was raging on the inside, raging. And he says, Miss, I told you at the beginning of the semester, it is your job to keep up with your grades, keep up with your exams. When we pass those back, that is your job and your responsibility, And I told you that at the beginning. And she says, no, you're the professor. It is not our job to keep up with our exams. It is not our job to keep up with our tests and know what we made. That is your job. That is your responsibility. And she's actually yelling at this point. So obviously the whole class is silent other than watching this back and forth. And to be fair to her, that is his responsibility to keep up with the grades of the students in the class and not ask them. But as I said, several people, realizing they didn't have their exams, they just threw out some numbers and he was good. Just wrote them down. So my question in my head is, why in the heck don't you just say some numbers? If you don't have them, he's clearly not checking anything. Just throw some numbers out. But no, she didn't want to do that. She wanted to get in a fight with him. And she says, no, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. It is your job to keep up with our exams. It is your responsibility. She's seriously yelling at him. And like I said, he's sitting on a desk in the corner with his back up in the corner. And he doesn't say anything. I told you his face changed. He didn't say anything for about 10 seconds. Just sitting there. And then he looks and says, I come here every day. And I teach you. I spend my time trying to make sure that you understand American history. And you mock me! How dare you? How dare you? He gets up off the desk. He walks out of the classroom. The classroom opens up to the outside. He walks down the aisle, walks out to the outside, and there are windows back there. And not only me, there were 2 or 3 others. I got up and went and looked to make sure he's not going to get a gun out of his car and kill us all. Because he seemed kind of weird and kind of out of it sometimes. I was afraid that he was going to get a gun and come in and shoot us all. So a couple of us went back to the window to see what he was doing. He walks outside, walks back and forth, paces up and down in the road, paces up and down, I don't know, about 10 times. He comes in. He says, class dismissed. Get out of here. And we had just started the class. When he came in, the thing that started the class was when he came in and said, I need you to tell me the grade. So we had been in there for all of maybe 10 or 15 minutes after about a 15-minute class. So he walked in and said, class dismissed. Get out of here. And he looks over again and says, and you mock me. How dare you? You could have heard a pin drop. He goes back out, slams the heck out of the door. Wham! Gets in his car, because we go back there and look, he gets in his car, drives off, gone. come to the next class, whenever it is, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So whatever the next class is, we come in, act like nothing ever happened. I have no idea what that was about, but it was weird, it was memorable, and it was a little frightening.